Imagine this: a life where your mind is free, uncluttered by the weight of every responsibility. A day where your energy is spent on vision, not logistics. A team around you that moves like clockwork, not because you control every gear, but because you've taught each one to turn with excellence. This is not a fantasy. This is not luxury reserved for the few. This is the result of a misunderstood superpower: delegation. Most people think leadership is about control, about holding the reins so tightly that nothing can go wrong. But what they don't realize is, the tighter you grip, the more you suffocate growth. Not just your own, but everyone's around you. True leadership, true influence, true success in this age of relentless demand and digital overload comes not from doing everything. It comes from knowing what not to do. Let go, and you unlock a different level of power. You create space. Space to think. Space to lead. Space to live. Because the truth is, you were not born to be a task machine. You were born to build, to imagine, to lead with purpose. And to lead well, you must master the art of effective delegation. There's a war raging in the modern mind. It's not a war of right versus wrong. It's a war of time versus impact. You wake up every day with a finite number of hours. 24. No more, no less. And yet, the average person spreads themselves so thin, trying to answer every email, fix every problem, carry every brick. They never lay the foundation of the empire they were meant to build. Do you think Henry Ford built his automotive revolution by himself? Do you imagine Walt Disney hand drew every frame, built every attraction, ran every cash register? No. They saw the magic of multiplication, not just of money, but of people, of skill, of trust. They built teams, not clones. And the only reason they reached legendary status is because they let go of what didn't require their direct touch. That's the difference between staying small and going monumental. Delegation in 2025 is not just an option. It's a necessity. We are living in the era of constant inputs. 1,000 tabs open in our brains. Notifications, updates, fires to put out, and the lie of productivity whispers in our ear. If you don't do it yourself, it won't get done right. But here's the hard truth. That belief is not noble. It's a trap. The do-it-all mindset might feel heroic, but in reality, it's a fast track to burnout, mediocrity, and missed opportunity. Because no matter how talented you are, you cannot be your own army. The greatest visionaries in history didn't climb alone. They scaled with systems, with support, with people they empowered to own parts of the mission. Delegation is not weakness. It's wisdom. It says, I trust myself enough to trust others. It says, I know my worth and I won't trade my highest value tasks for the illusion of control. It says, I am ready to scale. So how do you do it? How do you take the sacred thing you've built and place it into someone else's hands? Without fear, without compromise. It begins with clarity. Before you can delegate anything, you must define it. What is the task? What is the desired outcome? What does success look like? Visually, tangibly, unmistakably. Vagueness kills delegation. Assumptions breed frustration. But clarity unlocks flow. Think like a builder. You don't hand someone a pile of bricks and say, make something. You show them the blueprint. You walk them through the vision. You tell them exactly how wide, how high, how strong it must be. Then, you match the task with the right person. You don't assign a creative design to an analytical mind. You don't ask your visionary to manage spreadsheets. Effective delegation is not just passing the baton. It's passing it to the one most equipped to run with it. And when that baton is passed, you don't disappear. You don't micromanage either. You guide. You support. You offer feedback. Not as correction, but as investment. Because delegation is not abandonment. It's an invitation. an invitation for growth, for accountability, for shared ownership. But let's not sugarcoat it. Letting go is hard, especially when it's your dream, your name on the line, your reputation at stake. You built this with your own hands, and the thought of someone else messing it up, it gnaws at your pride. But pride is not a growth strategy. Letting go doesn't mean surrendering quality. It means you believe in the people you've chosen. It means you accept that mistakes may happen, but growth will follow. Thomas Edison once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Apply that to your team. They may stumble, they may learn, but if you support them with belief, not blame, they will rise, they will grow, and you will too. Because every time you delegate, you plant seeds, seeds of trust, of culture, of leadership, and if you water those seeds with patience and clarity, they will flourish into a forest of self-driven leaders who don't just follow your orders. They carry your vision. You are not delegating tasks. You are multiplying power. You are replacing stress with strategy, burnout with bandwidth, micromanagement with momentum. And when you do this with excellence, you build something that outlives your own hands. You become the architect, not the laborer, the conductor, not every instrument. And the music, it's louder, richer, stronger, because it's not just you anymore. It's the team, the culture, the legacy, and it all begins with one courageous act, letting go. And when you finally let go, not recklessly, but strategically, you begin to taste a new kind of freedom, not the kind that sits on beaches and checks out from life, but the kind that allows you to operate at your highest level, the kind that gives you space to think, to envision, to lead from the mountaintop instead of getting stuck in the mud. Because here's a truth that separates the average from the extraordinary. If you're always caught up in the urgent, you'll never make room for the important. If you're busy answering every phone call, responding to every ping, managing every detail, you'll never create the masterpiece you were meant to build. Carnegie understood this. Napoleon Hill documented it. Andrew Carnegie had hundreds of men working under him. Not because he was the smartest in every room, but because he was wise enough to recognize where his genius belonged. He said, "No man will make a great leader who wants to do it all himself or to get all the credit for doing it." That's the truth of power. Real power is shared. Real power is amplified, not hoarded. Delegation is not just about shifting workload. It's about elevating others, creating room for leaders to rise. And the most powerful leaders are not those who shout directions. They are those who build trust, brick by brick, moment by moment. You don't delegate by dumping. You delegate by investing. You sit down. You explain the why, not just the what. You inspire ownership. You ask questions like, "What do you need to succeed here? How can I support you without stepping on your toes? What's your process for solving this?" And then, you step back. You let the fire breathe. Because here's what happens when you delegate with clarity and trust. People rise. They surprise you. They become more than you expected, because they were invited to. And suddenly, your role evolves. You're no longer the bottleneck. You're the catalyst. You're not drowning in decisions. You're driving the vision. This is where the magic happens. This is how organizations scale. This is how families thrive. This is how impact grows. Not through control, but through co-creation. Think of any great movement. The civil rights movement didn't happen because one person did everything. It happened because one person lit a fire, and thousands carried it. The greatest business empires were not built by one set of hands, but by empowering teams to take pieces of a dream and run with it. So ask yourself, what are you still holding on to that someone else is ready to own? What task, responsibility, or fear are you gripping so tightly that it's choking your growth? Because delegation is not just about efficiency, It's about transformation. It transforms your calendar. It transforms your relationships. It transforms your legacy. And when it's done right, it doesn't just make life easier. It makes life bigger. Imagine this. You wake up on a Monday morning. Your calendar is clear of chaos. Your inbox is under control. Your mind isn't racing because you've learned how to lead with leverage. You spend your energy on vision, not volume, on strategy, not stress. You know your team is operating like a living system, breathing, growing, adapting, because you've built it to do so. You've trained them. You've trusted them. You've released the need to control every detail. And now, the whole operation runs with synergy. That is real freedom. That is high-level performance. That is what it looks like to live in your zone of genius while empowering others to live in theirs. And that is the heart of effective delegation. It's not about doing less. It's about doing only what only you can do. And what happens next? You don't just reclaim time. You reclaim clarity. Suddenly, your ideas are sharper. Your creativity expands. You see patterns, opportunities, gaps, because your brain isn't fogged by busy work. You can build. You can scale. You can serve. You become the kind of leader who not only accomplishes more, but brings out more in everyone around them. This is the shift from overworked manager to strategic visionary, from burned-out hustler to inspired architect. And all it takes is the courage to delegate with intention, not randomly, not sloppily, but with the awareness that every task you release creates space for greatness. And once you understand that space is the greatest luxury of a modern mind, you stop worshiping at the altar of busyness. You stop measuring your worth by how much you do, and instead, by how well you lead. You see, a visionary's job is not to drown in the daily. It's to rise above it, to see 5 years into the future while others are stuck in the next 5 minutes, to make decisions today that shape destinies tomorrow. But to do that, you must be free from the tyranny of tasks, and that freedom is earned through delegation. The greatest mistake of our time is confusing effort with impact. The truth, you could work 14-hour days and still be ineffective if you're doing the wrong things, but delegate wisely, and you could work 6 hours and change the course of your entire organization. Because the real power lies not in how hard you work, but in how smartly you align your energy. And alignment only happens when you hand off what drains you and pour your soul into what fuels you. But let's go deeper. Delegation isn't just a business strategy. It's a human one. It's how trust is built. It's how people grow. When you delegate a task, you're not just removing it from your plate. You're saying to someone else, I believe in you. And that belief, it changes people. It awakens dormant potential. It activates confidence. It's like telling a child they're capable. Suddenly, they start acting like it. You're not just building capacity. You're building culture. A culture where people own their work. Not because they have to, but because they're trusted to. And that's the kind of culture that doesn't just survive challenges. It thrives through them. Because when people are empowered, they become more than workers. They become leaders in motion. Think of the great generals, the legendary founders, the master builders of history. They knew that armies don't move because of one man's command. They move because of structure, belief, and ownership. Delegation, at its best, creates an army of minds, each focused, equipped, and inspired to move the mission forward. You are not abdicating responsibility. You are multiplying possibility. And yes, there will be stumbles. There will be moments when someone doesn't meet your standard. But those moments aren't failures. They're invitations to coach, to refine, to develop. Because delegation is relational. It's not just about assigning tasks. It's about building people. It says, I see you not just for what you can do today, but for who you can become tomorrow. Now, let's talk about the real-world power of this. Imagine scaling your business, not by adding more hours, but by multiplying your capability through people. Imagine handing off entire departments, projects, workflows, not with anxiety, but with absolute confidence in your team. That's what great CEOs do. They don't obsess over how to do everything. They obsess over how to design the system so it runs without them. They step into a higher role, orchestrator, architect, leader of leaders, and they earn back something that most people are dying for in this noisy world. Time. Time to innovate. Time to think. Time to rest, refuel, and return stronger. Because when you're not crushed by every detail, you rise into a space where clarity lives. But it's not just about you. Effective delegation elevates morale. Your team doesn't want to be babysat. They want to contribute. They want to solve, innovate, lead. Delegation says, you're trusted. It says, you're capable. It says, your work matters. And when people feel that, they bring their best. They go from employees to co-creators, from passive participants to passionate problem solvers. That's how you build teams that last. That's how you attract top performers. That's how you scale not just a business, but a movement. And let's not forget the greatest gift of all, balance. You reclaim your evenings, your weekends, your life, not because you've slowed down, but because you've strategized up. You stop checking your phone at dinner. You stop waking up anxious about what you missed. Because now there's a system. There's a structure. There's a team. You are no longer the bottleneck. You are the bridge. And through that bridge, opportunity flows, growth explodes, and peace, yes, peace, finally returns to your life. And as you step fully into this new paradigm, you'll realize something profound. Delegation isn't about giving away responsibility. It's about giving life to your purpose. It's about creating the space to breathe again, to think again, to dream again. It's about building something bigger than you, something that doesn't collapse when you step away, but actually grows. Because of the trust you've instilled, the systems you've designed, and the people you've empowered, this is the new definition of power. Not control, not force, but expansion, the ability to multiply yourself without multiplying stress, to stretch your vision without fracturing your focus, to build, lead, and live without burning out. Because here's the truth the world rarely tells you. You don't have to do it all to have it all. You just have to know what's yours to hold and what's yours to release. You weren't put here to carry every brick. You were born to design the cathedral. So let it go, let it rise, and watch what happens when you finally delegate not just your tasks, but your trust. Watch how your team transforms. Watch how your energy returns. Watch how your mission, your impact, your legacy multiplies. This is the art. This is the strategy. This is the power of mastering the art of effective delegation. Now step into it and build the future only you were born to lead.